And someday the high and the mighty will fall. There will be no power brokers, the wall of power will fall. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Wall of Power Radio Hour. This is your host, Paul Metza. We have a great new show tonight with some great musicians. I've had the pleasure of listening to this, my first guest, just this morning, checking out some of her songs, and I'm really enjoying it. We have Miss Becky Capel on tonight. She is, in her bio, says she's 57 years old and didn't start playing till she was 42, so she's got a story to tell. Her record, That Certain Ache, was called by Bill DeVille of The Current as the 2018 Best Americana Album of the Year. She's got a new record out, In It to Win It, and she has a record release coming up at the Turf Club right around the corner here. But with any further ado, I'd like to welcome my new friend, Becky Capel. Becky, how are you tonight?
You said it right. I'm great. Thanks, Paul.
Yeah. I know when we talked earlier to set up communications, you were at the groomer with your dog. What kind of dog do you have?
She's a Beagle miniature pincher mix. They call it a Meagle.
A Meagle.
Her name is Skeeter Davis, which is one of my favorite singers.
Well, Skeeter, I look forward to meeting Skeeter. We have my dog Blue roaming around the house. If we have no dogs walking by, we will have no barking from the inside. But I'm not going to bet on that. But anyway.
No, I don't. Me too. She's outside right now, so that's good. But
yeah. So, Becky, tell us first a little bit, because the most important info is you have a record release show coming up Saturday, May 21st, with your band, The Fat Six, my buddy Adam Levy's band, Turn, 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 and Faith Boblet at the Turf Club. What time does that show start, Becky?
I think the doors are at 6:30, and Faith will start first at 7:30.
Okay.
And, so, yeah, well, and then she'll do like a half-hour set, and I think Adam, the Turn, Turn, Turn is going to do probably close to an hour, and I'll probably do about the same. So that's going to be a fun night.
Tell us about the new record, In It to Win It.
Well, yes, it actually came out in March, and we were supposed to have a record release party at the Turf Club back in February, but there was the big COVID spike at that time, so we had to postpone, but luckily we've got it rescheduled. And, the record it's kind of short and sweet, 7 songs. 6 originals. One of them, I did a cover of a Nick Lowe cover on there as well. So, we recorded most of it during COVID, I guess. And, I've written the songs over the past few years. I'm not super prolific songwriter, but I eke them out.
all good things in time. Tell us about some of the musicians and producers that were involved with In It to Win It.
Right on. Yeah, Paul Bergen is kind of the main guy, and he actually produced my my other record, That Certain Ache, also back in 2018. So by producing, meaning that we kind of recorded it at his house.
Yeah,
and some of it we recorded live to tape with Jeremy Johnson.
I love Jeremy. He's one of my favorite guys in town.
He's the best, and he's an amazing drummer and an amazing guitar player.
And he does it both at the same time.
I know he can do them both at the same time.
It's unbelievable.
Exactly.
I had he and my old friend, may rest in peace, Big George Jackson, on my radio show several years ago, and I've known Jeremy for years. He's one of my favorite guys in town.
Yep.
But to watch him play his Stratocaster while he's playing the drums is something you really have to see in person to appreciate.
Yeah, you just have to see him standing anywhere in person is something to see.
Well, and Paul Bergen, Stretch, I've been a big fan of his guitar playing for years. I really got...
well, he said to say hi because he's a fan of yours.
I used to go down every week and hear Molly Mayer at Nice Polonaise Room, where I played for 3.5 years, and I just adored Paul's playing. So I hope some of his great guitar playing is all over In It to Win It as well.
It sure is. Yep, it sure is. And so, and also on That Certain Ache, I'm so lucky to be able to play with Paul or have Paul play with me. So, and also Eric Koskinen, who Paul also plays with now, he's playing bass on a few of the songs. So we kind of have a cavalcade of musicians. But at the Turf Club show, we will have Eric. Paul will be playing guitar, of course. Eric will be playing bass, and drummer named Nate Gam, who's played with Paul for years, is my drummer now, so he'll be playing drums that night. And I got Jenny Russ singing backup vocals, if you're familiar with Jenny Russ.
I'm not.
She's a singer. She's in a couple different bands around here, married to Dave Russ, who does a lot of sound.
Love Dave Russ, another great drummer
drummer.
and producer and engineer.
Yep, exactly. So, yeah, they're a pair. But I just have her.
Let's go back into the life of Becky Capel, because you didn't really start banging on a guitar until you were 42 years old, which was if I'm doing my math right, about 15 years ago.
Yep.
But you spent some time out in, is it Portland?
Yeah, when I was 20, I moved to Portland, and I lived in Portland till I was 33. Then I moved back to Minnesota, where I'd grown up. And and when I was out in Portland, I did do some music. I didn't play guitar or anything, and I didn't write songs. I just was singing backup in some bands and, dabbling a little bit. And
drinking a lot of coffee.
Drinking a lot of coffee, yeah. Exactly.
That's what they do. That's how they roll in Portland.
A lot of coffee.
Yeah. Right.
And drinking a lot of microbrews at the, that was the beginning of all that stuff, but which is now we get to do that here as well.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, when I moved back here, I'd had a couple kids out in Portland, gotten married and stuff. So when I moved back here, I was just working full time, raising my kids, and completely did not have anything to do with music or the music scene. For instance, I never got to see Molly and those guys at Nyes. I missed all of those. But once my son became a teenager, he was actually a pretty ripping great guitar player, and it inspired me to just kind of go, well, I sure like to sing. I'm gonna pick up his guitar, and I knew that G, C, and D would get me whatever I needed, pretty much.
Right.
And a capo.
A million. You got to have the capo, but there's a million songs written with those chords. I've written a few myself.
Yeah, I sure have too. But anyway, I just was kind of learning to strum and play along with myself just so I could sing what I wanted to sing. But then a result was these songs started coming out of me, and these melodies, and then these words, and it just happened. I can't even really explain it. It was amazing.
Your friends that have known you for years, it kind of must have blown their minds a little bit that here's a 42-year-old woman, now she's rocking and rolling.
Yeah, yeah, I think they don't. Yeah, it's true. and now all my friends, a lot of my friends now are also rock and rollers because that's who I'm hanging out with now. But yeah, definitely my mom friends and stuff. They've watched me change, I guess, or become who I really am.
Well, yeah. Well, there's dad rock and mom rock's a cool thing too. So you must have been really excited when you started to get involved with music to be in Minneapolis, Minnesota, one of the greatest music scenes anywhere in America.
It's true. I mean, I know that now, but I didn't really know that then. Like I said, I had nothing to do with the music scene here, and I just started forcing myself. So back up a little bit. I made my first record called For Now. I actually made it out in Portland because I didn't know any musicians here, and so I was just flying back and forth and recording with my old musician friends out there. And so then I had that CD, and I would go out here, and I was like, well, I can't keep going back and forth to Portland to play shows.
Right.
So I probably should get involved with the music scene here. So yeah, I just would bring my CD with me, have a couple in my purse, and then kind of sheepishly pull it out and say, oh, I'm a musician, which was even hard to say those words, I'm a musician. That seemed kind of crazy.
Well, you certainly can say it now with 3 records under your belt. I
think I can, yeah.
So what was your very first live gig playing your own songs in Minneapolis?
Oh, I think I did a thing. I think the very first one was a singer-songwriter thing. I got invited to play like 2 songs at I think it was at the Beat Coffee House, which it was so, there's no microphone or anything. It was simply just standing with my guitar and playing my songs. And I was just, I'm not, now I'm a confident guitar player. I just play rhythm guitar and I do pretty well. But then it was so nerve-wracking.
Oh, I bet.
Those first couple things. And then eventually, let's see, I just kind of kept meeting people and doing Jim Walsh's Hootenanny a couple times. That helped me meet a lot of people and so on. But then, eventually I think I got up the guts to ask Paul Bergen if he would ever play with me. And he, kind of said, sure, I'll play with you, whatever.
Yeah, right.
Just tell me what key your song's in.
Well, and not only is he an incredible guitar player, but I always used to marvel at his tone.
He's the tone master.
He is the tone master and meister. Mm-hmm. He's just incredible. So
and he really is. And I didn't, that was a thing where I didn't know why I thought he was so good because like I said, I really didn't know anything about music or the scene or anything, but I could just tell. I was like, man, that guy is just something different. There's something really special about him, and he just really enhances my songs. I mean, yeah.
Now, so who are your influences? What kind of music did you listen to over the years, and what songwriters and musicians inspired you to write?
Well, that's the funny thing is I listen to kind of mostly old country music is what I love, love, love. It's not what I exactly do, but I would say my stuff has a, I don't know, sort of a it's not. I'm not trying to be retro or anything, but so I love Johnny Cash,
Becky Capel. Old country is the best country in Paul Mentz's opinion.
I totally agree with that. Absolutely, yeah. No, I totally agree. I don't want any. I like the old stuff. But yeah. I mean, Johnny Cash. I love Waylon Jennings. I love, Merle Haggard. I love Dolly Parton, of course. All that stuff. But I don't know if, I don't know that I was inspired by songwriters. I just, all I can tell you is melodies just come into my brain, and then if I can attach words to them that aren't too dumb, I'm pretty happy.
Well, whatever works, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Now, you must, I'm guessing if I'd go over to Becky's house for a cup or two of coffee, you probably have a little Joni Mitchell in your collection.
No, I actually don't.
Really?
No, I don't.
Okay, so I'm gonna bring some Joni Mitchell.
Too contemporary for me.
I'm gonna bring some Joni Mitchell records over for you.
I mean, I've certainly listened to Joni Mitchell quite a bit. I just, but no, I really don't have any. I mean, I should flip through my records right here. I've got them.
Flip through.
What you got? I got Jerry Reed, and then I got Charlie Rich. Here's Charlie Pride, another Charlie Pride, another Charlie Pride. Waylon. Sandy Posey, Skeeter Davis. More Waylon. Oh, the Five Royales. Oh, here's Bobby V, who is also Paul Bergen's uncle. Don't know if you knew that fun fact.
I kind of did, but love Bobby V.
Roger Miller. Oh, Rolling Stones. Merle Haggard. Doug Kershaw.
Oh, yeah.
Tom Rush.
The Raging Cajun. Well, I'm loving all those titles.
Buddy Holly, Ella.
Oh,
Truck driving songs. The Beatles.
Oh, of
Ella
course.
Fitzgerald. Linda Ronstadt. I'm also in a Linda Ronstadt tribute band right now.
What's the name of the tribute band?
We're called the DeLindas, and we've only had one gig so far. But it's pretty great actually. There's it's almost all female. We have Rob Genetic playing drums.
Rob's the best.
Yeah. So, but otherwise, we got Jenny Dodds and
love Jenny.
You know Jenny Dodds.
Oh,
she's the best.
Old buddy of mine, and that she is partners with the great Curtis Say makes her about as cool as you can get.
She's got a lot of patience. Yes, she does.
Yes, well, we love them both to death. Well, you surround yourself.
Well, she's an amazing songwriter too.
Yeah, no, she is.
Yeah.
I used to have a songwriters night called the Artist Corner at Maze Lax in the late 90s, and Ginny and Curtis would perform. In fact, I'd like to take credit, and she credits me personally when I gave Molly May her first professional gig was at one of those Artist Corners at Maze Lax. In fact, a fellow was following me around, taping everything I was doing on a direct-to-CD machine, and I've got one of those early Molly shows that I've got to get her.
Cool.
But Molly's turned into just such a phenomenal songwriter and musician.
Yes,
kind of our Minnesota's version of Lucinda Williams. And speaking of Lucinda Williams, you had a great quote on one of your records that you put out in 2018, and the Star Tribune said, Becky's songwriting has a Lucinda Williams-like balance of down-and-out grit and hopeful beauty.
Yeah, I know. Good quote.
Well, I really enjoyed listening to your music this morning, and I've heard your name. It's been bouncing around for the last few years. So it's finally nice to meet you, even though it's over the phone. Once again, Becky Capel's record release party for In It to Win It is coming up on Saturday, May 21st. Doors at 6:30 at the Turf Club over on University in St. Paul with her band, the Fat Six, Adam Levy's Turn, 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 and Faith Boblet. Becky, I really want to wish you luck with the record and the show. We're going to go out with this segment with the great Becky Capel with the song that I picked called I Don't Know. I loved it.
I love that song. Yeah.
Well, you are great. Keep picking and grinning, and I'll look forward to meeting you in person and say hi to the great Paul Bergen and Eric Costin and all the rest of my friends down there in Minneapolis.
I sure will. All right. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you. Now we're going to listen to Becky Capel doing I Don't Know off her record, In It to Win It.
Rev it up, let it rip, turn up the radio. Roadblocks left behind, I'm gonna let love flow. Maybe I accelerate just a bit too fast. I'm gonna tap the brakes, ease it up, 'cause I want this ride to last. I'm gonna idle down, slow my roll, but baby, you know this engine wants to go. Idle down, slow my roll, but baby, you know this engine wants to go. Don't care which road we take, nowhere to get to. Don't care what's up ahead, as long as I'm with you. What a trip, feeling like running down those blues. Detours don't bother me, I'll just enjoy the view. I'm gonna idle down, slow my roll, but baby, you know this engine wants to go. Idle down, don't go too fast, 'cause baby, I want this ride to last. Cruise is on, rain is gone, clouds in the rearview mirror. Windows down, stars around, we got heaven right here. I'm gonna idle down, slow my roll, but baby, you know this engine wants to go. Idle down, slow my roll, but baby, you Wall of Power Radio.
Welcome back to the Wall of Power Radio Hour. This is your host, Paul Metza. We have a real wonderful musician on the line tonight, a fellow by the name of David Huckfeld. Used to play in a band called The Pines, a very popular Twin Cities band. And I'm just starting to get to know his music. His name's been bouncing around my circles for quite some time now. He's not only a great songwriter, but an environmental activist as well. And he has two shows, one that's happening tonight in Ely, Minnesota, and one in the next few days in Duluth. So with no further ado, I would like to welcome my new friend, David Huckfeld. David, how are you this evening?
I'm doing quite well, Paul. Thank you. How you doing?
We are doing really well, and you've got a show in just a few hours up in Ely. I believe you're performing with the great Annie Humphreys. Tell us about that for the people that are streaming the show up in the Northland.
Yeah, we're going to be showing up there at the State Theater in Ely. Basically, Annie Humphrey lives up at Leech Lake Reservation, and when she caught wind of this proposed Huber Mill project, and when she noticed very quickly that there was no environmental impact statement done and the governor had quietly approved it, she took it very personally because her whole family comes from that area. And so coming in and logging an already strapped kind of Northwood boreal forest situation without any thought to what they're going to do to replenish or any of the runoff, just the things that need to be asked up there. It's another example of the tribes in Minnesota getting pushed around when it comes to big business. So Annie called me and said, would you come up to Ely and do this event, and then we'll do it again in Duluth on May 18th with Winona LaDuke.
And where will it be in Duluth, David?
Duluth is at the West Theater, and it's meaningful that these are at these old historic theaters because the towns have rallied and raised money to renovate these places and keep them alive. They used to be, hubs for community action, arts, entertainment, and they're trying to come back full strength. So the State Theater in Ely tonight and the West Theater on the West End in Duluth on the 18th.
The West Theater is just wonderful. I played there a couple of years ago, and it's being rehabbed by Bob Boone, who runs the Duluth Reader. It's a gorgeous theater. It's about 240 seats. Just recently, in the last couple of months, there saw Jorma Kaukonen, and then, which was a terrific show. Equally terrific was the David Bromberg Quintet. The acoustics are great, very comfortable seating, and I highly recommend people attending this upcoming event in Duluth. Now, David, tell us, you've been, I saw your name, you were part of the Water for Life concert in Bayfront Park last summer with my friend Keith Sicola that was headed up by Winona LaDuke. So tell us about your time working with Winona and your environmental awareness, and how long has that been going on?
Well, it's basically been going on and gaining sort of momentum and traction in my own life for about 15 years, ever since I had the good fortune of meeting John Trudell at Pine Ridge in South Dakota as a young songwriter, and being able to bring him to Minnesota to about 10 years later to work with him. And so, there's a really strong legacy of musicians joining forces, standing in solidarity with indigenous issues, but most of it happened in simpler times. It happened, kind of long ago, and so the Water is Life Festival and some of these efforts are to try to reignite sort of allyship and collaborators to get behind these fierce and powerful women indigenous leaders who are just sounding the alarm over and over and tirelessly showing up to talk about the fact that if we don't have a healthy planet, none of our schemes are going to amount to anything. So, the music it has such a role to play, but only if it's as diverse and as urgent as the movement itself. And so I think the idea is to always surprise ourselves and leave a very open door to to who can come in and perform and join the message.
I had Marianne Moore on the Wall of Power Radio Hour about 6 weeks ago. One of the women that was arrested in the Line 3 protest. The town, I'm forgetting the name of the town, but they put, it starts with an A, I know that, but they put out
Aiken.
Aiken, right, correct. Thank you, David Huckfeld. But they put out Women Who Cook was a phenomenal collection of female musicians from Minneapolis regrouped to do a remake with updated lyrics, Down the River That Pray, which was absolutely phenomenal. Tell us, David, a little bit more about the mine that they are proposing in Cohasset, Minnesota.
Well, this is a mill, and the thing is, it's the kind of thing that's sort of business as usual up north in a lot of these towns. And to be quite fair, the economies of these small towns rely upon this kind of business. The issue being, here's an out-of-state company. None of the tribes were consulted, not Leech Lake, Red Lake, White Earth, Boy Fort, none of them. And it's taking, business tax dollars out of Minnesota to a company from North Carolina. The big thing, I think, is, it's very theoretical for people down in the cities, maybe not all, the people that have cabins and family up there, but for folks like Annie Humphrey, it's just another example of, the cavalry kind of busting through and doing what they want. So I think no one's trying to shut down business. And, Winona's mission is to pull things toward renewable energy and have a just transition to a new world, that we need to survive. So this mill is just, I think what it is, it's just kind of trying to sneak it under the table, trying to make it happen fast, making big promises, and then they're going to drag a bunch of timber out of the Northwoods, and maybe it's not sustainable, and how would they even know, because they haven't told anybody anything about it. So, it's an uphill battle that the tribes face up in northern Minnesota, and they need all the help that we can give them from down here in the cities. So I just, before that goes in your backyard, I think somebody should have to do a pretty thorough review of what the consequences could be. Line 3 has already leaked multiple times. There's been spills, there's been disasters with that. The promises are made by white guys in suits, and they're broken about 10 minutes later,
Oh, absolutely. And it's always to let the lands of the people around it clean up after they make their money and get the hell out of Dodge. David, tell us a little bit about where you're from and how did you become interested and then start playing music?
I grew up in a very small farm town in northwest Iowa in Clay County, and to be honest with you, there was not a lot of music to be had in that community. It was pretty isolated, fairly conservative, and then, as tends to happen, people in uncles of mine and friends of mine started to poke through sort of the canopy of isolation. And I began writing poetry at a very young age. And it wasn't until a little bit later that I came around to wanting to transform them into songs. So when I did that, I had a little spell at a theology school in Chicago, and then I shot out of there like an arrow and went all over the country and lived in Chicago and Denver and Tucson and Los Angeles and Montana. And basically, just recovered that thread of how do you present a song in a live setting, how do you deliver music that gives people more than it takes from them? Some of the best traditions in the folk music world can do that, but it's not an easy art to master. So I just followed that all the way up to Minneapolis, and the Pines signed with Red House Records and did about 5 records for Red House, and then I started making my own records. It's been only 3 years now. I had a residency at Isle Royal National Park, and I wrote my first record there.
Tell me about that, because that sounds like just a phenomenal experience.
I mean, I think it's the crown jewel of the National Park Artist Program. I mean, they have residencies in about 40 national parks, and I mean, Isle Royal being the most remote, the least visited, it's just about like Jurassic Park. I mean, it's another world, and once you get there, there's very few instructions. You know, don't die, don't get lost.
Right.
You know, there's no cars, there's no roads. I didn't have electricity or running water. I think when in 2000, you know, in these present times, if your mind's occupied with survival, then it actually has a way of invigorating the creative mind. So I just sat in my little cabin and watched the shooting stars and the freighters out on Superior and just wrote for 14 days by myself, and
Wow.
and had about 16 songs come in that way. So I mean, I'm forever grateful for that kind of wilderness space, and that they even have a thought that maybe an artist could sit up here by himself for a while.
What a wonderful opportunity for you. Getting back to Iowa, it was funny, David. I was just, when I was lining up this radio show, I was doing a little research on your music, and I was listening to a song. I believe it was on the record, Room Enough, Time Enough, and I go, man, he's from Iowa. He's got to really be influenced by Greg Brown because he sounds exactly like him. And then I was going through the credits. I go, oh, that was Greg Brown.
Yeah, Greg has been a friend for a long time, and that particular song has some significance for Greg. He had a neighbor who just absolutely loved that song, "Satisfied Mind," old country song. And
Sure.
when his neighbor was passing away, his neighbor's son would drive him over to Greg's house and knock on the door and say, well, anyway, you'd come out, you know, once or twice a week and just sing that song for my dad in the car. You know,
Oh,
he couldn't get out of the
nice.
car. So when it came time to record that, I've been playing that, you know, I asked Greg, and he was happy to oblige. And I mean, Iowa's a small place musically. It's a small place in general, but there is some rich songwriting that comes out of that little state down there to the south.
Well, and let's not forget the great Dave Moore.
You can't possibly. I love him dearly. Known him a long time. I've learned a lot from him, and he's a song hoarder. That guy. He's got dozens of new songs that he just refuses to record. I think out of spite, but when he plays them live, you can tell how good they are.
Yeah, well, those two have been on my radar forever. I met Greg when he started playing up in the Twin Cities in the early 80s, and I believe I sold him one of my pickups for one of his acoustic guitars, and I met his young daughters at the time. Of course, Pieta Brown, one of his daughters, has went on to have a wonderful career of her own. But, you know, I've always considered Greg, I've always referred to him as the Van Morrison of the Midwest.
You know, it's not a bad analogy. Greg, I think he likes Van's early stuff quite a bit, and there's an effortlessness to, you know, and kind of almost like a childlike approach to the simple sort of joys of life. But, you know, Greg can take it a few gears deeper especially in later records. His songwriting is, you know, it's on par with anything that we see out of guys like Prine and even Dylan. It's the poetics of it. I think Iowa City, you know, the little Paris on the plains, is a very literate town, and you can feel that in sort of some of Greg's songwriting, and Dave Moore's too, Bo Ramsey, Joe Price, a lot of those guys.
Right, yeah, Joe and Vicky Price, love them too. Yeah, and I would refer anybody out there in the Wall of Power Radio Hour listening land to track down Greg Brown's song, "The Poet's Game." It's it's one of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard. Greg's got, like you said, the simplicity, but also that kind of elder wisdom, mysticism, all beautifully entwined in those gorgeous songs he writes. So, David, what? Say once again, tell us, the listening audience, the show tonight is in Ely at the State Theater with Annie Humphrey, and then in Duluth, is this, what's the date on the West Theater date?
It's Wednesday, May 18th at the West Theater, and Winona will be there with us that night I think it's a $10 donation that goes to Honor the Earth. Really, it's a chance to, to give some information about the Huber Mill, to talk about sort of what's going on in Indian country up north, and Annie and I have been playing a lot of shows together in the last few years. She's become like family, and so nobody can keep it quite so strange as Annie and Keith, and just the alchemy that happens when we get to play together. I mean, truly anything can happen. I've seen people, lead a parade out of the building down the street. I've seen Keith materialize a round dance in a field where 5 minutes ago there was 4 people and now there's 79. I mean, just those kind of things happen. So I truly enjoy.
Well, it's kind of one of the beauties of leading an artistic and musical life. David Huckfeldt, this has been such a wonderful way to meet you, and I believe your website is just davidhuckfeldt.com, correct?
That's correct. Yeah. All the music is available there, and yeah, truly, Paul, it's really, this is a nice way to meet somebody that you've known about and heard for a long time. So I'm honored to talk to you, man.
Oh, and I'm honored as well. Please give my best to Sokola. I love that man dearly. And if you get a chance to talk to Greg Brown, give him my finest regards.
I absolutely will. Yeah, I appreciate it very much, and thanks so much for having us on and helping promote Honor the Earth and the cause, man. It means a lot.
Anything I can do. We're gonna end this show tonight on the Wall of Power Radio Hour with a song that David Huckfeldt performs and wrote with Keith Sokola called "Book of Life." Support the cause. Go to Honor the Earth. Throw him some money if you can't make the shows. And David, personally, as a man who grew up in northern Minnesota, double Scorpio, who loves his water, and now lives in Duluth, and I can see Lake Superior out my window. Thank you for all you do on behalf of the rest of us for keeping up the good fight.
Yeah, I appreciate it, but as well as I do too, the credit goes to those frontline water protectors, and we're just trying to show up as as support, some wind in those sails, because they live it in a way that none of us can really imagine. So I thank you very much, Paul.
David, have a great night, have some great shows, and I look forward to meeting you in person.
Likewise, man. You take care. I hope to see you soon.
Okay, David. Thank you so much.
All right. Yep. You bet. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Everything's a miracle. Answers in the book of life. Answers in the book of life. Who are your neighbors? What will your friends say? Who is the kindest? What makes you proudest? What makes us good friends? Why am I different? Why do I struggle? Why do I hurt? Everybody worries. Why do we promise? What is existence? Why does it matter? Who should I stand by? Seeds of the future, rise of humanity. everything is sacred. Answers in the book of life. Answers in the book of life. Excited, be conscientious. Who do I run to? What do I stand for? Who should I play for? What should I pay for? What makes it all worthwhile? How do I see? How do I hear it? How do I move it? When I get near it, how do I get through it? Everything's amazing.
Thanks for listening to the Wall of Power Radio Hour. The show is produced by Paul Metza, engineered by John Supersonic Saristo. We'd like to thank our guests, Becky Capel and David Huckfeld. Follow what I'm up to at paulmetza.com. I got a show coming up on May 25th in Duluth. Nod to Bob, tribute to Bob Dylan at the Fitkers Barrel Room at 8 o'clock with my buddy, Sonny Earl. And remember, like my dad used to tell me, remember to be kind and make someone happy.